So we now proceed with project management, lesson 3, part 2. Now we discuss the goals of project management. So now that we have defined what project management is, we will now go over the goals of project management. So there are three: meet requirements, achieve efficiency delivery, and minimize risk. So in this discussion, we will discuss one by one this project management goal. So meet requirement, deliver the output as defined, required by the client. Efficient delivery, deliver the output with the least cost in time, resources, and money. And then, of course, minimize risk. Deliver the output with least uncertainty in scope, timeliness, quality, and cost. So if your client we'll go back to the example I gave with the first uh, part. You enrolling in the program, and then that you enrolling a program is a project. So meet requirements. Once you have meet requirements of your certain subject, of your certain course, in within 4 years, what is the output? You be able to graduate in BSBA program, right? Whether it is HRM major or FM major. So what is how to do efficient delivery? So deliver the output with least cost in time, resources, and money. So how are you going to graduate with less cost in time, resources, and money? The program is only composed of 4 years and 2 semesters per year, right? So do not delay, like having off SEMs or failing a certain subject or getting an INC. And then once getting an INC, you did not comply it, because that is a cost of time, at the same time money. Yes, the tuition fee may be free, but your data is not free, your internet connection is not free. The professional fees you pay to the people you need is not free. So these resources are not free. So make sure that you graduate on time. And then, of course, minimize risk. How are you going to minimize risk? Minimizing the risk of failure, of not graduating in 4 year, or not passing a certain subject on a certain semester is easy as long as you know how to do it. Like, if there are requirements, do it on time, deliver it efficiently. Timeliness, do not make projects or quizzes late. And of course, quality of your output. Make sure that before you do something, you have gathered enough data before you make it, or you have read about it, you have listened to the discussions about it. Because minimizing risk is easy as long as you have all the data needed to minimize the risk. Kaya usahay man gud kay pasagad ra kag dasmag, wala ka kabalo or wala kay dala nga panagang, di ba? So that's how you minimize risk. So now we himay-himay it one by one. First is meet requirement. So under meet requirement, so the first goal of project management, of course, is meet requirements. When a project is initiated, goals and expectations are set. As mentioned, this is what your stakeholder will use to judge the success of your project. So there are three things you need to ensure that your requirements are met. So first is requirements, the initiation, and the quality. So the requirements is the scope of your output. So output must be well-defined, agreed, and authorized. So well-defined. So let's just say enrolling in an SMP 5 is a project. So what is the scope? Part of the scope is you have to be done with it in 1 semester. You agreed with the activities that we have. You agreed with the activities that we have, the schedule that we have. And then, of course, we both authorize on this scope, right? Cost, expenditure to achieve output must be understood, agreed, and authorized. So what are the necessary costs that you need to incur? Of course, you have to have load and data, available data, not just data, but strong data when you make assignments, submit your assignments, and of course, um, when you answer your quizzes and other exams. And of course, time required. I gave you an activity and schedule of activity that we have agreed. When are you going to deliver your output? When are you going to check with whether we have assignments and other activities, right? And of course, the resources that you needed. It's not only the the paper or the cell phones or the smartphones, laptops, that resources that you need, but also the people that composes your group. If you have group activities, those are also resources. As you can see, as you can observe, there's always this agreed, authorized. Because in a certain project, if it was not agreed by both parties or even your stakeholder, then one way or the other, the output of the project, some of its features may not be agreeable to your client or to your stakeholders or to the people you have agreed with. Okay, so you have, it must be understood, agreed, and authorized, or well defined for that matter. And next is part of meet requirement is initiation. So a clear approval to start a project, approval for the scope, the cost, the time, and the resources. And then approval to the continue as the phase are completed. So once you are completed with SMP 5, then you can proceed now with the next level for your schooling, right? Or the last level. Imagine you have probably 6, 7 subjects this semester. If you have not meet the requirement of these seven subjects or 6 subjects that you have this semester, the chances that for you to continue in the next phase are shady, right? Because part of it is you have to comply, or you don't need to, you're not supposed to have an INC, you're not supposed to have a failing grade to proceed with the next phase. Or you, if ever you can proceed on the next phase, it's gonna be a tedious begging, tedious authorization, because supposedly you're not supposedly dili ka dapat mahagbog karong nga SEMA. You have to minimize risk during this time of failing any of the subject or getting an INC for that matter. And of course, the quality, the structure of work to assure the adherence to requirements, review the process to verify output per requirement. So make sure that the structure and of course, review process to verify output per requirement. A project has to be completed within the cost and timeline and must be addressed all tasks within the established scope. A project has to have been initiated properly by establishing and acquiring approval for cost, time, and other resources. So I have a question. Is anyone familiar with brainstorming, or if anyone has been part of a brainstorming session in the past? I believe you will agree with me that all of you have tried being part of a brainstorming activity, because it's part of our previous lessons. Most of you probably will say yes. So what did you do during brainstorming? I hope you apply what I have discussed, that during brainstorming, you gather all the ideas without necessarily contradicting or commenting to the ideas of your classmates, right? Do you agree with me? Or judger ka ayo mga itong brainstorming activity mo during for our fishbone projects? Hopefully not. So now we move on to the second, achieve efficient delivery. So the second goal of project management is achieve efficient delivery. There are 3 things you need to be on top of to ensure the project is managed within the timeline established. Of course, first is plans, next is execution management, and then third is change control. A solid plan has to be created at the onset of the project. This has to include plan for cost, resources, tools, and tasks that need to be completed. So must have testing and quality assurance plans to minimize rework. must have risk management plan to avoid disruption or minimize impact if they incur. Um, I'll give this as an example. I don't know if this is part of their plan. When you enroll in BSBA the first time around, do you have any, are you just testing it for you to qualify? Or did you not plan to be enrolled in BSBA? Or is it the only degree that you are qualified and you have probably 4 or 5 other courses that you have applied, and then BSBA is the least of your choice, but mara may ni ingon nimo nga nasulod ka sa uban wala man. What do you think was that? Was that your testing and quality assurance to minimize rework katong pagpili niyo og 5 ka courses nga top 5 courses probably, but BSBA is the least of your choice? And then once you were already enrolled in the subject and good Lord, you are already on the 4th year, is it part of your risk management plan to avoid disruption or minimize impact it may incur, or within the 4 years that you are studying this degree, have you not have second thoughts like shift dagay ko sa ako ang first love nga course, accountancy maybe, or engineering maybe, or pharma maybe, or a nurse student maybe, or ni pursue na lang mo BSBA kay dili mo ganahan nga magbalik na pud mo sa sugod. So that is just a for you to think about. So must have communication and implementation to marshal resources at the user side and to minimize negative noise. So you might wonder, what is this negative noise mentioned here? This is not necessarily the noise per se, guys. These are disruption within communication. So, or the barriers in communication. So there are various barriers in communication, like the language that use, or culture may be, or static may be, or even distance, like you don't have load or you don't have signal. That's part of the barriers of communication, and those are called noise also. So why is it that it is important to have communication plan? It is important for any project to have communication plan so that everybody understand what everybody is doing, and when you submit a certain requirement to your boss, you know how it is to be communicated. Like as part of communication, you have means and ways in order for you to submit your output to me, right? Assignments and some of the activities. I require you to have WPS or Microsoft Word, or even if you have if you don't have those, it's okay for me to it's okay for you to write it and then take a picture of it and then send it to me. But it was clearly stated that once it is written, make sure that it is readable, it has a good lighting, and then it is not readable at your end, but readable on my end. Because if it is not readable on my end, whatever you communicate to me will be useless because I do not understand it. Communication is two-way. The receiver and the one who will decipher the message. So, dapat kasabot ka, sabot po ko. So next is execution. So while a project is ongoing, there has to be a regular reviews done to ensure that each phase is completed as planned. So each phase, if this is a huge project, like you graduating in 4 years, it is divided into phases, right? And year level at the same time, semester. So you must have allow this also completed as planned also allows the project team to check for any errors and issues and apply corresponding fixes if necessary. So what are these necessary fixes in terms of within the project phase, like INCs, or you are late in submitting the requirement, so you have to fix it, or you have not submitted, or you have not taken the first quiz, the second quiz, then you need to respond to it and fix it. So even if it's late, as long as it's done, then it will help the necessary fix and then ensures that you will you will finish the phase. To ensure that there are no changes which will cause surprise to any project team member or stakeholder, an approval process has to be established to approve a track or any change or update. So it is important that there are no changes. However, if there are changes that will happen within the phase of a certain project, it should be approved by the stakeholder, the member, so that they are not going to be surprised if a certain output is not what they have expected in a certain phase of a project. Okay. So during execution management, you must have the right tools, the right resources for the task. Of course, if you have the right resources but not the right tools, then the project phase will not be finished anyway. You must have candid, transparent reviews to catch errors and issues before they have significant adverse impact. So that's why during my video, guys, I asked you to comment on your reactions, or probably ask the representative to have if you have any questions or clarifications. Why? If you are not going to question or ask something, one way or the other, it's not me who will have a negative impact or adverse impact or error. It is going to be you. Because even in the old normal, after the discussion, the instructor will probably ask you any questions or clarifications, and you just went dead silent because one, probably you were afraid to ask kay di mo ganahan sawayon sa imong mga classmate, or may ganun mga basin feeling bright ra ka, or ganahan ka mo gawa sa ikapoy nakapaminaw sa imong maestra. But actually, at the end of the day, who will suffer if you have not clarified to your instructor for this example, or for your project head about something? What will be the impact on that when you execute your project? Diba? Gets mo? Munang ipangutana mo, na ba may mga pangutana or clarification, ipagawas na siya kay para dili mo magmahay at the end, no? Mahipay nangutana ko. So lastly, change control as part of efficient delivery. Must have governance to approve the changes in scope, various activities, schedule, resources, and cost. So like I said, if there are changes in a project, make sure that team member, stakeholder, or whatever the changes are, it should be approved so that dili makuratan tong kinsa tong ma-affected sa change. So lastly is minimize risk. So the third goal of project management is to minimize risk. There are three things you need to remember or to ensure that risk is minimized. So first is quality management, change governance, and communication. So there has to be a plan to test out improvement action or new solution before full rollout to ensure that they will perform as expected. There has to be an approving body that will review and approve any changes in scope, schedules, among others. So quality management. I'm not going to elaborate what quality management is. This is part of your subject BA 302, I believe. Operations management with quality management, or TQM, total quality management. This has been discussed also in BPO, SMP 4, quality. Okay, so let's not dig deeper into that, but to give you a brief discussion, implement process to review output against requirement, minimize output function gaps, and of course, develop test plans and create independent, dedicated test organization to minimize risk of function gaps and error. So quality management is to ensure that output is of the best quality. Eradicating waste and eradicating risk is not always possible. Sometimes there are defects along the way. That's why in the mantra of continuous improvement, the cycle repeats. And even in Deming's wheel, the cycle repeats, the Deming wheel cycle, because you can always find something to improve in terms of quality in a process or in a project. So change governance, control changes in scope. This is in relation to the second goal of a project, delivering efficient delivery, diba? Change control. So the change should be manageable or controlled, and then provide clear transparency on impact of changes on project and on its risk level. That's why changes are controlled, because there are various stakeholders that may be impacted by this type of changes, and it may increase the risk level. So if the control change has minimal risk, and then those who are impacted are not greatly affected, then the change is controlled and it can benefit the result of the project. So lastly, communication. So communication, have a clear plan to communicate activities and status to stakeholders, provide structured communication of expected changes in post-delivery processes to minimize transition risk and noise. So again, transition risk and noise. There is this one organization before. It's still functioning now. This is part of communication. Misunderstanding of communication actually, or noises in the communication. What happened to this organization was that there were rumors, just rumors, that the organization is going to close because of bankruptcy. They are not productive anymore. Sales are going down because of pandemic and the likes and the likes. So there are a lot of stockholders in this organization. So once this rumor was spread by scrupulous individuals, or I don't know, kanang tabi ra jud ba? Kanang pasagadrag announce or something without all the data needed by them. So what happened was that because of this, just a rumor, what happened is that some of the stockholders, gibawi na nila ang ilang mga stocks, bawi na nila. So because if I am a stockholder, it creates attention on my side. Ako sang kuha na akong mga stocks, samtang wala pa na ni Rado, kay malugi niya ako, kay dako na ako na-invest, di ba? Kaya nakadungog ka sa mga tabi-tabi nga manay nahitabo. So muna to, sige na, gikuha. Some stockholders actually get their stocks on that organization. Amo na to. After 2 months, wala ay na-close ang company. The company was not bankrupt at all. Yes, sales were down. They are not that as much productive as before. But actually, the company has different product line. So dagan silang negosyo. The only product line or service that was out is katorang isa ka part. Let's just say, kung naasa lima, ang isa ra. So ang upat, nag-function pa. So ikaw nga ni takakagkuha sa imuhang stocks, and then okay ra di ang company, kaya naminaw ka katong rumor na gani without all the data nga naa ka, then unsa na may mahitabo nimo, and then now the company is still standing actually, as in. So here, if you don't have a clear communication activities and clear structured communication, muna siya may tabo. Diba? Minimize risk. So in order to minimize the risk, we have to have a clear communication, a structured communication, a clear communication. And if we communicate to our head, to other people, it should be, you have to have all the data. Okay? So that ends lesson 2. Thank you and have a good day.